Memento Mori Stories, a podcast that reminds us that we will die and that celebrates the deeply personal and sometimes whimsical ways we create to remember death and cherish life. How we bridge the gap, the sometimes deep, painful, and soul-searching gap between life and death. How we remember those we have loved, the things we keep, the phrases we use, the foods we prepare, the places we hold dear. This is your invitation to listen generously to one such story. A Memento Mori story.
My mother was a very joyful woman. She had just a joy of living, and she found joy in a lot of little simple things in life. And she would get so excited, just like a little child. As she got older and I was taking care of her, we used to go for rides at sunset and look at the clouds, and she got so overjoyed at the sunsets and the brightness of the clouds, and the more clouds, the prettier the sunset. And sometimes she would be sitting out on her back deck, and all of a sudden she would say, "Oh, come here, quick, quick, quick. You've got to see this. Look at that cloud. Look at that cloud. Oh, look at how nice and puffy it is. Isn't it beautiful? Get your camera. Can you take a picture of it?" And she would do that like on a regular basis. Or she would see a cloud that looked different, like not a fleecy white one, but something that maybe had a trail from a plane in it. And she would say, "Oh, look at that. Look at that. Isn't that something?" And she would get so excited about it. And it was just her joy. And so every time now when I see a cloud, particularly a white, big, fluffy cloud, I will think of her and think about how joyful she was and how excited she would get over just the simple clouds. And look how fast they're moving. And, oh, they're not moving at all. Look at the top ones are moving one way and the bottom ones are moving another way. And she would get so excited. One time after she had passed, I was traveling in a car with my husband, and my dad had this thing about the clock. And one day he looked at the clock before he passed, and it was 11:11, and I didn't know what it was. It was four red lines, and it struck me. And then I looked and I said, "Oh, that was the clock. I didn't know that." And so whenever I see 11:11, I think of my dad. And I also had a sister who died when she was 7 years old, and her name was Joy. So getting back to my story, we're traveling down the highway one day, and all of a sudden these beautiful clouds were in the sky. And I said to my husband, "Oh, look at that cloud. It reminds me of my mother." And he said, "Look at the clock on the car." And it was 11:11. And then I turned and I looked out the window, and there was a billboard, and on it was Joy, which was my sister's name. And for me, that just made me think that the three of them were together now in the afterlife. And it was just a profound feeling for me. Every day I see the clouds and I think of her every day, multiple times. And every cloud I see reminds me of her, whether it's a straight, fleecy, straight one with the wind going through it, or the puffy, fleecy clouds that she just longed to look at and watch as they change shapes. And, oh, look, it's changing. Look at what it looks like now. That's why I think of her whenever I see clouds on a daily basis.
Thanks for listening. Compassion and listening are so valuable in bringing healing to our lives after loss. So, how about you? Do you have a story about something that reminds you of a special someone, a beloved pet, an event, or a place that brings comfort? Please contact Memento Mori Stories through this podcast or our Facebook or Instagram pages. I would love to hear from you.